Hey, Julien here from beautiful Canggu, Bali with this week's EX0 Carbon webinar update. And so much has been going on this week. I want to go straight to it. We did this incredible test in our laboratory a few days ago, and I did a webinar from the laboratory about it. And a lot of people simply asked me why. I don't think they got it, to be quite honest. It might be chemically and technically a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try to explain to you again why what we're doing in the laboratory is so important and such a groundbreaking work right now. And it's totally going to change also the valuation of this company because it's opening up this entirely new future market and kind of makes us a front runner there. So what happened last week? Let's go back to it. I was telling you, and I was showing with Mickey, that he was using oxygen and steam inside our patent pending incredible reactor, turning really, really bad waste streams into hydrogen. And why does that matter and what is the difference? I'm going to try to explain it to you very quickly. So 12 years ago, we made the bet that we can build small-scale reactors to turn waste into green hydrogen. So this has been going for quite a while, and we kind of gave up on that dream for a little bit, so we were happy to produce a really high-quality gas. So the first challenge is that you have lots of different waste streams, and they react very, very differently at the very high temperatures that we use, and that's why usually very complex reactors are needed to convert them into like a decent gas that you can use for something. So the first breakthrough we had is we made the reactor very, very, very simple. It's one chamber where all the reactions are happening, and we manipulate it in there, but it still stays very, very stable. So we're able to reduce the whole complexity of the system. That was step number one. The second part is we were able to use fuel that has very high mineral content. When you have minerals at a very high temperature, they start to melt and turn into glass, which is like volcanic rock, and then your whole reactor collapses, right? So that is the second thing. We're able to solve that, which everybody thought was impossible, to be very hot at the same time, but be able to use all those minerals in your ash later as a fertilizer, right? Because we don't want to really get rid of it, and we can't because, where the minerals going to go? Got to go somewhere. Then the third part now we achieved was that now we're using fuels that you've seen in our laboratory that is a mixture out of like horse manure, sewage sludge, and it has already been used in a biodigester. So there's just simply not a lot of energy left. It's about 46% pure ash. And ash obviously doesn't convert into anything. It's going to come out of the reactor. So this is incredible as well because the system has to be able now to take 50% of the fuel that goes in, take it out via our filters at a very high temperature without clogging up the filters. Wow. So we did that. We're like absolutely overly excited. And honestly, if you're in Wefunder, you have been part of this for the last few weeks because, we have been making this up and testing this out after all these years while you guys were watching. So we give you the live data feed out of the laboratory. And often, I know if I get too excited, that's kind of how it is because we have been working on this for so long with so much money and such smart people that it's incredible that's finally working. So 3 done, right? You remember. So we're doing incredible waste streams in a very small, simple reactor. We're able to get all the clinkers, the minerals, and we are able to get out all the ash out of the process. So, but at the end of this process still, we're now producing a gas, which is incredible because it's clean. So we can turn that into power. We can use that with many operations. We can even use that in a fuel cell. We're doing that with the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. But that fuel cell now is a very highly customized solid oxide fuel cell, which kind of needs to be developed for the gas that we are producing from this waste streams, right? So waste goes in, gas comes out, but the gas composition still has a lot of nitrogen in it, and it has a lot of carbon monoxide in it, and it has some methane in it, and it has some hydrogen in it, and it's just a kind of strange blend that kind of fluctuates also a little bit depending on what we put in there. So now last week in the laboratory, and this is like the big thing, and now focus on me. I mean, even if you hated chemistry class, right, as I did, it is not that hard. We're usually using air, right, to turn our waste into a clean gas. So we have about 50% part of our gas that doesn't burn, right? That's NO right there, right? So it's not going to burn. It's not going to do much, and it's, obviously it's just simply there. But now if we add steam and oxygen to the process, what does it do? It changes our gas composition. It gives it more water, right? So which is cool, but it's more H, right? And it gives us more O, right? Also important, oxygen. So if you put this together, now suddenly our waste converts into hydrogen. Now, how cool is that? So hydrogen obviously is the smallest particle, and we can pretty easily with a membrane actually separate that from all the other gases. We have a partner in France that actually does that, so that's really, really awesome. So we have 36% hydrogen coming out of that reactor and about 14% CO, carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide, when it's clean, actually can be converted also into hydrogen later on. So we're like now over 50% hydrogen, right? So follow me here. So that is actually incredible because hydrogen obviously has an entire industry behind it. It's not something like a novel gas that only we produce for a specialized fuel cell. It gives us the chance to use any off-the-shelf like PEM fuel cell, for example. Like, they've been making hydrogen fuel cells since the first space missions. This is not that new. There are not that many in the market, but still many, many more than the technology field that we're in, right? So now you're producing clean hydrogen in a very small reactor without any infrastructure anywhere in the world. And now comes the big thing. When we started working on green hydrogen, funded by Kleiner Perkins and Waste Management Inc. and Triple Point Capital, and some of these companies that you probably know, nobody really cared about green hydrogen, to be honest. It was us, and we thought maybe the gas price is going to go so high at some point that it's going to be worth it to make your own hydrogen. So now, almost 15 years later, oh God, it's really taken a long time. I was actually, like in my mid-20s when we started this thing, and now I'm like, 45. So, I mean, obviously, wow, long time. But there's a totally different point. Now green hydrogen is the big thing. Everybody is talking about green hydrogen. It's kind of like we have made this consensus now that solar energy is so cheap and so abundant that what are we going to do with all the solar energy when all the sun shines? We're going to have far too much of it. We need to store it some kind of way. So the cars generally are going to go electric. That's pretty clear right now. We're going to have a lot of stationary storage. But other than that, it's kind of unpractical and still very costly to store that much electric energy in batteries. So what can be done? If you remember chemistry, like fifth grade, you remember electrolysis. You just have the plus and the minus. You stick some water, you produce hydrogen, right? And then go poof. It's a fun little experiment. So you can use that excess electricity, very easily to make hydrogen, and then you can store it, you can compress and cool down that hydrogen, you can store it, and that actually becomes your other energy storage. So we're going towards an economy that is powered by solar for almost like live applications like transportation, everything else, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of batteries, and everything else like trucks, for example, that are going to be very unpractical to run them on batteries simply because otherwise you have to stop all the time and wait for, a few days to charge your truck. So it's just not very feasible right now. So in truck applications, for example, in airplanes, on trains, in industrial applications, hydrogen is becoming the storage medium of choice. All right, see where I'm going with this. So we're going to have lots and lots of trucks driving around that are using hydrogen. But how do we get the hydrogen to the trucks? That is still the big thing, and why we're not seeing this at massive scale, because hydrogen transportation obviously needs its entire infrastructure. And hydrogen right now is a lot more expensive still through all the processing, rather inefficient compared to using natural gas, for example, where we already have pipelines for, right? Natural gas you can get in many countries everywhere. You can turn on your stove and you get natural gas. So that's easy, but hydrogen infrastructure in that sense is not really given. We can put some in the gas grid, but that's not really where we want to go. So building a hydrogen infrastructure is going to be very complicated, it's going to be very costly, it takes lots of changes. So this brings you back to zero carbon. And drop me a message if you haven't fully gotten that yet, because this is a total game changer. Now suddenly you have a company that can turn your garden waste or your industrial waste or any other waste stream that you have into clean green hydrogen wherever you are. So let's say you're a gas station and you want to fuel a truck. You don't have to bring the hydrogen in. You can use your waste, save costs on it. Maybe other people want to pay you to take care of their waste. And you can produce the cheapest green hydrogen out there. Why are we the cheapest green hydrogen right now? Because in the best case scenario, let's say you have excess solar energy, you're still not going to get paid for that solar energy, right? You still have to pay something. Maybe in the best case, you're going to get it for free. But even the cheapest solar projects right now is still at 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So, at the conversion that we have and everything, compression, blah, 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 you're still at 14, 15, 20 cents per kilowatt hour electric when it's all reconverted. But now a company comes in that makes you green hydrogen from something that other people are willing to pay you for to get rid of, right? So we're probably, and we still need to make that calculation, we're probably able to create cost negative green hydrogen without infrastructure anywhere where there's waste. And where is there waste? There's everywhere there's waste. And especially there's waste in parts where you don't have gas infrastructures, like in in agricultural lands and farmlands. You have lots of agricultural waste, but you might not have gas pipelines. And this puts us in a very unique position to be the on-site provider of the cheapest green hydrogen available right now. Boom. And there you have the big thing why the lab results from last week mattered, even though you probably hated chemistry. You take steam, you take oxygen, you take the carbon in our fuel, you turn that into hydrogen and CO. CO goes to hydrogen, then we clean out all the other gases. Then we can go in any off-the-shelf fuel cell we can find. It can be Bloom Energy. All of them are made overall for hydrogen. It's rather easy to separate the hydrogen because the smallest particles, so if you think of it like a grid, only the hydrogen particles can get through. So we can separate it, and suddenly we are making hydrogen from stuff that other people pay you to throw away. And now how cool is that? So we're going to execute on this one project right now that I can't still tell you too much about. It's rather secretive, but when it comes out, and if you see who are the partners in this thing and who are we actually doing this for, this is definitely going to change everything about zero carbon. And this is what I'm telling you right now. You have exactly 10 days to go to invest into zero carbon on the current Wefunder campaign, right? We're going to pull the plug after that. We're highly undervalued. We're not going to sell any part of it anymore. We love that you're coming on board. And we are really, really excited that through this time while we're still testing, we can give you this incredible 2.5 time return on your investment already, right? So if you invested $100 now, and you're still going to do it over the next 10 days, by the end of the year in the new valuation, we turn that into 250. And I can guarantee you that we're going to do the new raise at the higher valuation. This is how much we have going on. And probably right after that, we're going to go up with the valuation again. We're very happy we can share that with you because you have believed in us in the last few months when everything was kind of not 100% clear how this thing's going to turn out, if all the tests will be positive. And if you only remember two things about this thing. This is groundbreaking technology. It's turning waste into the cleanest, cheapest form of hydrogen that doesn't need any infrastructure anywhere in the world from pretty much any waste stream, which is freaking awesome, to be quite honest. And at the same time, your chance to invest ends at the current valuation in 10 days. So invest now in the zero carbon. Thank you very much for asking that question. Everybody reached out to me this week, said, Julien, what are you talking about with the hydrogens and the O's and the H's and everything? I know it's complicated. Read up. Green hydrogen is like the hottest thing going out on the energy market right now. And it's just taken off. So we're looking at a multi-trillion-dollar market in the next 20 years. And we're still in the early phase. So now this is putting us as a front runner with a simple, scalable system that nobody thought would ever be capable of turning waste streams into their clean hydrogen. And this is it from me. I hope that I didn't confuse you more than you were already. If you have any questions, of course, drop it down here. Any questions about H's and O's and C's? And obviously, I'm not a chemist myself. I'm a finance marketing guy, but happy to try to answer all your questions. But I think it's pretty simple. And as long as you understand the impact and the mission, it's going to be pretty cool. Have a great day. Julien here from beautiful Canggu.